Greetings. We are the Ministry of the Real Truth, and we bring you the real truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth. We take a look at different subjects, religious related, anti-religious related. We look at them, we analyse them, do personal research on them to establish their claims as fact, the evidence is evidence, or their proofs that what they're saying is actually true, or if it's false. And if it's false, we expose them and reveal all, so you will be aware of it. You won't fall for their, to put it bluntly, and to the fact, total crap. We happened to come across this book quite by accident. It's funny how you find things online by mere accident. And it's called The Third Reich and Christianity by the Joy of Satan Ministries. So, okay, is this a real ministry? We don't know nothing about that. We're guessing it's either Luciferian or something else, what's his name? Natan Lawrence based or something like that. Lawrence based. So we decided to go online and see what it was about. We found some information on it, supposedly what it's all about. Referred to as Joy of Satan, JOS, a website and Western esoteric occult organisation founded in 2002 by Maxine Dietrich. Wonder if she's any relation to Marlene Dietrich. Andrea Maxine Dietrich. Joy of Satan Ministries advocates spiritual Satanism, an ideology that presents a unique synthesis of theistic Satanism, Nazism, Gnostic paganism, Western esotericism, UFO conspiracy theories, and extraterrestrial beliefs similar to those popularized by Zecharia Sitchin and David Icke. Members believe Satan to be the true father and creator God of humanity, whose desire was for his creations, humanity, to elevate themselves through knowledge and understanding. They have been the topic of significant controversy for their anti-Semitic beliefs. They don't like the Jews, right? And a connection to a former chairman of the National Socialist Movement, an American neo-Nazi organization. Definition: the orientation of the Joy of Satan Ministries is generally acknowledged by some scholars as a form of Western esotericism, and is considered an esoteric reinterpretation of Lawrence, as Natan Lawrence, and his Satanism. The relation between Satan is described by Professor of Religious Studies Christopher Partridge as the core of an esoteric project of transformation based on a personal or mystical relationship. Their history: in the early 2000s, Maxine Dietrich began the creation of Joy of Satan Ministries. Maxine Dietrich established a satanic ideology that represented itself as an esoteric form of Lawrence Satanism. He was the founder of the Church of Satan, wasn't he? Lawrence Satanism is a non-theistic religion founded in 1966 by the American occultist and author Anton Szandor Lawrence. Scholars of religion have classified it as a new religious movement and a form of Western esotericism, but would be espouse a traditional Satanism by establishing its satanic fundamentals from ancient Middle East. Far Eastern and Western teachings. So it's a mixture of Middle Eastern law, Mesopotamia, etc. Far Eastern be the Indians, and Western teachings of paganism, etc. And only acknowledging Judaic Abrahamic concept of Satan as a reaction. From the research of Zecharia Sitchin, apparently this guy made a lot of stuff up, Maxine Dietrich derived the theory of an ancient conflict between advanced extraterrestrial races, see Origins of Humanity, and incorporated these theories into her ideology. She concluded that Jews and the Abrahamic religions were the products of a hostile alien race, responsible for the deposition of pagan religions and their pagan gods, who the JOS, Joy of Satan, identify as demons. With this reinterpretation, the Joy of Satan recreated Natan Lawrence's sigil of Baphomet, the official insignia of the Church of Satan that he founded. A sigil that would incorporate cuneiform script. It's the ancient Sumerian, Akkadian or Babylonian wedge-shaped script, text, language. Script instead of Hebrew letters, which spells out Satan in cuneiform instead of Leviathan in Hebrew. These incorporated theories, in addition to its contempt of Jewish mysticism, like the Kabbalah, etc., became the spark of significant controversy for the religious organization. When the adoption of anti-Judaic, it would be anti-Semitic, opposition to Judaism, total or partial opposition to Judaism as a religion, and the total or partial opposition to Jews as its adherents by persons who accept the competing system of beliefs and practices and consider certain genuine Judaic beliefs and practices inferior. So the anti-Semite sentiment had completely established itself within JOS, or Joy of Satan ideology. Further anti-Semitic theories would later be incorporated. It was also revealed that Clifford Harrington, chairman of the National Socialist Movement, it's like a white supremacy, probably Nazi type movement, was the husband of the high priestess of the organisation. This revelation exposed a split in the NSM's religious orientation and led to a major debate and conflict with the NSM and JOS. Despite the events, Joy of Satan continued to persist and maintain popularity and significance while being acknowledged as one of the most controversial satanic sects in the currents of theistic Satanism. Beliefs, all little green men by the looks of it, ancient astronauts, especially from the author Zecharia Sitchin and so forth. They've also identified as Nephilim from the Bible. Okay, these ancient astronauts. According to sociologists of religion, Massimo Intravigna, Maxine Dietrich derived from these theories the ideas of a mortal struggle between enlightened aliens and a monstrous extraterrestrial race, the reptilians. Yeah. Supposed reptilian humanoids which play a prominent role in fantasy, science fiction, ufology and conspiracy theories. The origins of humanity. They believe that one of the benign aliens, Enki, which they consider to be Satan himself, created with his collaboration on Earth human beings through their own advanced technology of genetic engineering. This is what Zecharia Hitchens, what's the other guy? Chariots of the God, Guy Van Daniken and all that. Believed, right? Believe. It's considered that by Joy of Satan the most salient of his creations with the Nordic Aryan race. White hair, or blonde hair, blue eyes, all that sort of stuff, right? With special powers, probably. They declare that the reptilians have in turn created their own kind by combining their own DNA with the DNA of semi-animal humanoids, probably Neanderthal man, with the result identified as the Jewish race. Joy of Satan Ministries theorised that after the benevolent extraterrestrials left Earth 10,000 years ago, only that long ago, right? The agents of the reptilians created their own religions, the Abrahamic religions, which began the deposition and defamation of their pagan gods as a result. They claim these religions maligned the benign extraterrestrials by labelling them as devils, and through their doctrines created a climate of terror within humanity, e.g. condemning sexuality, in order to better program and control humans. They state that Satan, however, did not abandon humanity, believing he has revealed himself in the Black Book of Satan, the Yazidi Book of Revelations, the title of a Kurdish book which is assumed to be one of two sacred books of Yazidis, the other being the Yazidi Black Book. However, the authenticity of its sacredness has not been confirmed, so it might be a load of rubbish. Not to be confused with the ONA scriptures of the same name, the Order of the Nine Angels, a satanic and left-hand path occultist group based in the United Kingdom, but with associated groups in other parts of the world, claiming to have established in the 60s. It rose to public recognition in the early 1980s. Okay, not to be confused with that one. Don't confuse the Black Book with that one. Theology. Adherents of Joy of Satan Ministries are generally polytheists. So they believe in more than one God, right? They've got 2 or 3 or more. Viewing demons of the Goetia to have a literal existence and Satan to be their cardinal ruler. Satan and some demons are also viewed as one of many deities and are equated with many gods from ancient cultures, such as Satan having known to be the Sumerian god Enki, and the Yazidi angel Melech, Taus Melech, peacock angel. While Satan is considered a deity within JOS, Joy of Satan, the deities themselves are understood to be highly evolved, unaging, sentient and powerful humanoid extraterrestrial beings. While the Joy of Satan Ministries adopts the satanic fundamentals of Natan Lawrence's Satanic Bible, Inchovine describes LaVeyan Satanism as more a rationalist in comparison. In Bjorn Durendal's account, he acknowledges a different spiritual atmosphere from LaVeyan Satanism. He states LaVey was able to suggest the reality of mysterious occult forces, while simultaneously appealing to an atheist viewpoint that he asserted was supported by modern science. The Joy of Satan tends to present with more simple, spiritualized language. Satan is seen as an important deity by the Joy of Satan, although not as an omnipotent and omnipresent God. They also hold the belief of Satan to be a representative of the notions of strength, power, justice, and freedom. Lilith is another deity of significance to the group, who is recognized as the patron of strong women and a goddess of women's rights, of course, because it's all an ideology created by a woman. Of course, so she'd be tending to bend to the woman, the female side of it, right? Creating it, or making it up there's a woman deity, goddess, sorry. It also believes that Lilith stands for a virtuous notion of abortion rights and birth control. Practices. Joy of Satan promotes a wide variety of occult practices, such as methods for evocation. The effect of evoking, that's like summoning them up, right? Calling on a demon to do their bidding, all that sort of stuff. Demonic entities. It looks like Bazuzu, right? The old Eastern practices. And guidelines for making pacts with them, probably not. JOS considers that Satanism is in practice as the true nature of humanity that precedes Christianity. Practitioners of the Joy of Satan Ministries may share similar practice of other groups under the theistic satanic sect, and those categorized in the esoteric ideology. According to Christian author and biblical researcher Josh Peck, theistic Satanism engages in every new age practice under the sun in their dedications to Satan and satanic philosophy. Referring to spiritual ministry as an example, he notes their divination methods in astrology, magic, pendulum, runes, clairvoyance, past lives, the pineal gland, third eye, the chakras, bioelectric technology, the astral plane, spells, the kundalini serpent, trance, as well as methods in self-hypnosis, incense, telekinesis, brainwaves, and chanting. All the good stuff, right? Occultism. Jesper Peterson states that practitioners experimenting with the meditation practices of the JOS can find them useful. Their numerous uses of magic also run from simple to the complex. These include sorcery, spells, and various types of witchcraft, all of which require the practitioner to imaginatively apply specialized knowledge and technique to the object of the spell, hypnotism, healing, and other kind of magical divination. Harry Potter stuff, right? They also offer a range of occult techniques and black magic. Rituals. Let's see some more information there. Reception. Joy of Satan Ministries became the topic of significant criticism for its close connection to a high-ranking leader of the National Socialist movement, or far-right neo-Nazis, white supremacist organisation based in the USA, as well as for its anti-Judaic, anti-Christian and anti-Semitic beliefs. While spiritual Satanists have adopted the ideas as a model, they have since distanced themselves from the group's controversial beliefs and very explicit connection with Nazism. When the fact that Maxine was the wife of well-known American neo-Nazi leader became public knowledge, it created serious problems within Joy of Satan itself. This controversy exposed a split in the NSM between the Christian identity, because they're like very white, supremacy, all that sort of stuff, right? Come across a couple of people like that. They're really into that. And the Odinists, I guess they're into Odin, their god Odin. Heathenry, also termed heathenism, contemporary Germanic paganism. They reckon Hitler was into Odin. Thought he was someone that said that he was possibly thinking he was actually a reincarnation of Odin, that old god. And Satanists. According to Intro Veen 2016, several local groups abandoned Dietrichs and started minuscule splinter organisations or breakaways. Some of these insisted that they were not Satanists, just pagan. Intro Veen adds that most are by now defunct. They've stopped, they've given up. While Joy of Satan continues its existence, although with a reduced number of members. Despite the events, Intro Veen states that its ideas on extraterrestrials, meditation and telepathic contacts with demons became, however, popular in the large milieu of non-Levian spiritual theistic Satanism, followed by a series of backlash. Clifford and Andrea Harrington were also accused of sexual misconduct, with many other allegations against them. However, Intro Veen claims the allegations are difficult to evaluate. Yeah, difficult to prove. Might just be hearsay. Maxine's satanic affiliations, however, were enough to result in Clifford Harrington's departure from the National Socialist Movement. Clifford Harrington would then form the National Socialist Freedom Movement after leaving the NSM in 2006. Like the Order of Nine Angels, the Joy of Satan shares similar anti-Semitic beliefs and National Socialist sympathy, and considered to be in the same ideological category, appearing to be similar ideologies with some dissent to each other. James R. Lewis noted in his Satan Census 2009 a surprising number of respondents to the Joy of Satan. According to the scholar of religious studies and researcher of new religion movements, Jesper R. Gard Peterson's survey 2014 on the satanic milieu's proliferation on the internet 2014 noted a surprising prominence among theistic Satanist websites on the internet. He states the only sites with some popularity are the Church of Satan and, somewhat paradoxically, is Lafayette Satanism, Church of Satan, and somewhat paradoxically Joy of Satan's page based on the Angel Fire Network. Internet service, and they are still very far from Scientology or YouTube. Yeah, they got some wacky ideas from Planet Xena or something. Most of these sites are decidedly fringe, whatever that means. Yeah, and see also these ones here, references, bibliography, where it's all coming from, external links, and official website. So that's information on JOS or Joy of Satan. It's not that other thing that it was called JOS. I can't remember what it was. It's like I know that was some antivirus thing. It might be like something dope. Okay, so that's that on that one. Okay. Joy of Satan. Welcome. Here's their website. Important information for non-Satanists, atheists, and those who are new to spirituality. And they got all this rant here. And they're stating down here, we have learned through years of research that Judaism, Christianity, and Islam are conspiracies and hoaxes of catastrophic proportions. They're saying the Bible is not the word of God, but was created and has been reinforced by human beings. So human beings wrote it. Men wrote it. Who have usurped the ancient spiritual knowledge. That's why the Bible has numbers, and have used this knowledge to become as gods themselves and to enslave humanity. Unbeknownst to most people, the populace has been under an intense self-perpetuating spell for centuries. Satan is truth, and truth will set you free. Okay, so they're saying you're under some sort of spell, being blinded, all that sort of stuff by it. Satanism is mankind's original religion. That's what they reckon Satan said. Joy of Satan Ministries is committed to the restoration of true Satanism. They look to the true creator of the religion, now known as Satanism. And who was that? Satan? Okay, the creator of Satan himself. For far too long, enemies outside have been free to deny Satan and Satanism to fit their own agendas. What if they have that, have a song in their group, Satan is my friend or something, that sped up Jesus is my friend song. Satan is my homie. They have all this other rant here. Satan does not in any way fit the Judeo-Christian or Muslim descriptions that have falsely defined him for so long, nor does he conform to the character depicted of him in Natan Lawrence's Satanic Bible. In order to really know Satan, one must go to him personally, without prejudice or expectations. One will find he does not conform to this or that denomination's conceptions of evil, which have been foolishly and thoughtlessly heaped upon him for centuries. True Satanism is pre-Judeo-Christian paganism. The facts are that Judaism, Christianity and Islam are latecomers and are a reaction against ancient paganism, which has preceded all three of these programs from hundreds to thousands of years. Okay, give us a date, that would be great, when it all started. Unfortunately, looking for answers from outside sources has been a common theme in Satanism, because so much knowledge has been systematically removed and destroyed by the Christian Church. Yeah, use him as a scapegoat, that's a good one. The Christian Church invented a false history to conform to their agenda, which is keeping spiritual knowledge and power in the hands of a few to the detriment of humanity. Joy of Satan Ministries does not acknowledge or recognize Judaism, Christianity or Islam, etc., etc. Okay, there's more on that, and more claims. Okay, and somewhere along the way it was mentioned that about Nephilim, so we looked that up. Okay, what does it say online? The Nephilim are mysterious beings or people in the Hebrew Bible, or Tanakh, or known in Hebrew as Mikra, in the canonical collection of Hebrew scriptures including the Torah, the Nefilim and the Ketuvim. These texts are almost exclusively in biblical Hebrew. Who are large and strong. The word Nephilim is loosely translated as giants, human-like appearance, but at times prodigious in size or strength of a bear, or bear and otherwise notable appearance. The word giant is first attested in 1297 from Robert of Gloucester's Chronicle, in some translations of the Hebrew Bible, but left untranslated in others. Jewish explanations interpret them as hybrid sons of fallen angels. Angels who were expelled from heaven. The literal term fallen angel appears neither in the Bible nor in other Abrahamic scriptures, but is used to describe angels cast out of heaven or angels who sinned. Lucifer and his supposed 13 angels that got booted out. They lost their rightful place in heaven. They abandoned it or whatever, chose to be evil, sinful, whatever, so they got the boot. According to the book of Numbers 13:33, they later inhabited Canaan. That's later Israel, because the Israelites, what's his name? Abraham went there because the land of Canaan was promised to him by God, so he moved there, and they lived side by side with the Canaanites until eventually that whole area became Israel, supposedly. Okay, so they later, we'll see, because Abraham was from Ur of Chaldea, and he was told to pack up his stuff, take his woman, everybody, his family to Canaan, the promised land. So he went there, and because they crossed over, apparently they did a passage or something in the ancient Aramaic, Galilean Aramaic, the ancient Lshana Ateeqa Supprayah, the old scribal, the original ancient scribal language, sacred language of the scriptures that perhaps Moses and the prophets spoke, and some scribes and monks used to copy the Old Testament textures. Around 800 BC in Ur, Edessa, now Turkey. Yeah, it's now Israel. A similar or identical biblical Hebrew term, classical Hebrew, archaic form of the Hebrew language, a language in the Canaanite branch of Semitic languages spoken by the Israelites in the area known as the Land of Israel, roughly west of the Jordan River, etc., etc. Read as Nephilim by some scholar, or as the word fallen by others appears in the book of Ezekiel 32:27. Okay, we're going to have a look at that soon. Put that up. There's etymology, etc., the contents, whatever. The Brown Driver Briggs lexicon 1908 gives the meaning of Nephilim as giants and holds that proposed etymologies of the word are all very precarious. Many suggested interpretations are based on the assumption that the word is a derivative of Hebrew verbal root NPL, that's the trilateral rule there, they didn't have vowels, etc., and it means fall. Robert Baker and Girdlestone argued in 1871 the word comes from the Nephil causative. What's that? Hebrew verbs, and Hebrew verbs take the form of derived stems conjugated to reflect the tense and mood, etc., etc. Causative, linguistic, a causative is a valency increasing operation, and etc., etc. Stem, applying that the Nephilim are to be perceived as those that cause others to fall down. Ronald Hendel states it is a passive form, ones who have fallen, grammatically analogous to Parkid, one who is appointed, a deputy or overseer, a seer, one who is bound, i.e. a prisoner, etc. The majority of ancient biblical translations, including the Septuagint, that's Alexandrian, isn't it? Theodotion, Hellenistic Jew scholar, translating the Hebrew Bible into Greek. Latin Vulgate, Latin translation of the Bible. Samaritan Targum, the Samaritan Torah called the Samaritan Pentateuch, so there's probably more than one. Targum Onkelos, primary Jewish Aramaic Targum, translation of the Torah, and Targum Neophiti. Interpret the word to mean giants. Symmachus, who translated the Old Testament into Greek, his translation was included by Origen and Sexapla and Tetrapla, which compared various versions of the Old Testament side by side with the Septuagint. Translated as the violent ones, and Aquila of Sinope was translated of the Hebrew Bible into Greek, a proselyte and disciple of Rabbi Akiv, can't see the rest of it, has been translated or has been interpreted to mean either the fallen ones or the ones falling upon the enemies. In the Hebrew Bible, there are three interconnected passages referencing the Nephilim. Two of them come from the Pentateuch, the Torah, first 5 books of the Bible, Hebrew Bible, Genesis to Deuteronomy. Torah means the same as Pentateuch, or 5 books of Moses. The first occurrence is in Genesis 6:1-4, 1-4, immediately before the account of Noah's Ark. Genesis 6:4 reads as follows: the Nephilim were in the earth those days. Okay, this is probably from the Hebrew Bible in English, where the Jewish Publication Society, or JPS translation, simply transliterate the Hebrew Nephilim as Nephilim. The King James Version translated the term as giants. The nature of the Nephilim is complicated by the ambiguity of Genesis 6:4, which leaves it unclear whether they are the sons of God or the offspring who are the mighty men of old, men of renown. Richard Hess takes it to mean that the Nephilim are the offspring, and as does P.W. Cox on. The second is Numbers 13:32-33, where the 10 of the 12 spies report that they have seen fearsome giants in Canaan. That's when they went in as spies, and they come out and says, we saw these Nephilim there, they're gigantic, we're like ants to them, grasshoppers. And there we saw the Nephilim, the sons of Enoch, figure in Hebrew Bible, forefather of the Anakim, who come of the Nephilim, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight. Outside the Pentateuch there is one more passage indirectly referencing Nephilim, and this is Ezekiel 32:17-32. Of special significance is Ezekiel 32:7, which contains a phrase of disputed meaning, with the traditional vowels added to the text in the medieval period. The phrase is read Gibborim, Nephilim, fallen warriors, or fallen Gibborim, although some scholars read the phrase as Gibborim Nephilim, Nephilim warriors, or warriors Nephilim. According to Ronald S. Hendel, the phrase should be interpreted as warriors, the Nephilim, in reference to Genesis 6:4. The verse, as understood by Hendel, reads, they lie with the warriors, the Nephilim of old, who descended to Sheol. What's Sheol? Place of still darkness which lies after death. although not well defined in the Tanakh. Sheol, in this view, was the subterranean underworld where the souls of the dead went after the body dies. We always thought that was a grave. Okay, is it similar to Hades, the Greek mythical place of the dead, abode of the dead? With their weapons of war, they placed their swords beneath their heads and their shields. They placed their swords beneath their heads and their shields upon their bones, for the terror of the warriors was upon the land of the living. Brian R. Doak, on the other hand, proposes to read the term as the Hebrew verb fallen, Nephilim, not a use of the specific term Nephilim, but still, according to Doak, a clear reference to the Nephilim tradition as found in Genesis. Interpretations. Most of the contemporary English translations of Genesis 6:1-4 and Numbers 13:33 render the Hebrew Nephilim as giants. This tendency in turn stems from the fact that one of the earliest translations of the Hebrew Bible, the Septuagint, Greek translation of books of the Hebrew Bible, composed in the 3rd or 2nd century BC, renders the said word as gigantes. The choice made by the Greek translators has been later adopted into the Latin translation, the Vulgate. They probably used, eventually it became the Latinized form of Greek, compiled in the 4th or 5th century, which uses the transcription of the Greek term rather than literal translation of the Hebrew Nephilim. From there, the tradition of the giant progeny of the sons of God and the daughters of men spread to later medieval translations of the Bible. The decision of the Greek translators to render the Hebrew Nephilim as Greek gigantes is a separate matter. The Hebrew Nephilim means literally the fallen ones, and a strict translation into Greek would be peptokotes, which in fact appears in the Septuagint of Ezekiel 32-27. It seems then that the authors of Septuagint wish not only to simply translate the foreign term into Greek, make it very Greeky, but also to employ a term which would be intelligible and meaningful for their Hellenistic audiences or their Greek audiences, because they were originally called the Hellenes before they were called the Greeks. Given the complex meaning of the Nephilim, which emerged from the 3 interconnected biblical passages, human divine hybrids in Genesis 6, Autochthonos people in Numbers 13, and ancient warriors trapped in the underworld in Ezekiel 32. The Greek translators recognize some similarities. First and foremost, both Nephilim and gigantes were liminal beings, those that cannot easily be placed into a single category of existence, associated with the threshold state of liminality from Latin limen. Threshold they represented and highlight the semi-autonomous boundaries, etc., etc. Liminal beings resulting from the union of the opposite orders, and as such retain the unclear status between the human and divine. Similarly, dim was the moral designation, and the sources witness to both awe and fascination with these figures, with which these figures must have been looked upon. Secondly, both were presented as impersonating chaotic qualities and posing some serious danger to gods and humans. They appeared either in the prehistoric or early historical context, but in both cases they preceded the ordering of the cosmos. Lastly, both gigantes and Nephilim were clearly connected with the underworld and were said to have originated from earth, and they both end up closed therein. In 1 Enoch, Book of Enoch, an ancient Hebrew apocalyptic religious text ascribed by tradition to Enoch, the great-grandfather of Noah, Enoch contains unique material on the origins of demons and Nephilim by some angels who fell from heaven, etc. In 1 Enoch they were giants whose height was 300 cubits, a cubit being 18 inches, 45 centimeters. This would make them 450 feet tall, 137.16 meters. The Quran refers to the people of Ad, it looks like Ad, not too sure how to say that, an ancient tribe mentioned frequently in the Quran. In Quran 26:130, whom the Prophet Hud 11th chapter of the Quran, Hud or Hud, named after him, though the narrative of Hud comprises only a small portion of that chapter. declares to be like Jabberin, Hebrew Gibberim, probably a reference to the biblical Nephilim. The people of Ad are said to be giants, the tallest among them 100 feet 30 meters high. However, according to Islamic legend, the Ad were not wiped out by the flood, since some of them had been too tall to be drowned. Yeah, 100 foot high. It's very, very tall. Instead, God destroyed them after they rejected further warnings. After death, they were banished into the lower layers of hell. Fallen angels. All early sources refer to the sons of heaven as angels. From the 3rd century BCE, references are found in the Enochian literature, Book of Enoch, the Dead Sea Scrolls, and the Genesis Apocryphon. The Damascus document, 4Q180, Jubilees, the Book of Jubilees, Testament of Reuben, 2 Baruch, Jewish pseudepigraphal text thought to have been written in the late 1st century CE or early 2nd century CE, after the destruction of the temple, probably. What does it say there? Yeah, temple in CE 70. It's attributed to the biblical Baruch, and so is associated with the Old Testament, but not regarded as scripture. Yeah, it's pseudepigrapha, so they can determine the date, but they can't determine the exact author. So it's pseudepigrapha. Josephus, a 1st century Romano Jewish historian, who's adopted by the Flavians, hence that's why he's got the name Flavius Josephus or Josephus Flavius. He was born in Jerusalem, then part of Roman Judea, to a father of priestly descent and a mother who claimed royal ancestry. Or apparently, Emperor Flavius adopted him. He became one of his sons. Hence the name Flavius. Epistle of Jude, Book of Jude, compared with 2 Peter 2, and so forth. 1 Enoch 7:2. And when the angels 3 sons of heaven beheld them, they became enamored of them, saying to each other, "Come, let us select for ourselves wives." Okay, so apparently these angels who had genitalia saw the human wives or daughters of men, and decided, "Oh, she's hot, let's get together with her, let's interbreed, marry, whatever, and have children." Some Christian apologists, such as Tertullian, was he not Roman Catholic? And especially Lactantius, probably another Roman Catholic, his advisor to Roman Emperor Constantine I, shared this opinion. The earliest statement in the secondary commentary explicitly interpreting this to mean that angelic beings mated with humans can be traced to the rabbinical Targum Pseudo-Jonathan. Targum Jonathan is a Western Targum interpretation of the Torah Pentateuch from the land of Israel. Its correct title was originally Targum Yerushalmi, which is how it was known in medieval times. But it's got something about because of a printer's probably an error or something like that. It has since been especially commonplace in modern Christian commentaries. This line of interpretation finds additional support in the text of Genesis 6:4, which juxtaposes the sons of God. What does juxtaposes mean? Let's have a quick look. It's probably hinting at or trying to put across or assumes, probably something like that, not really sure. Okay, to place different things side by side is to compare them or contrast them to create an interesting effect. Say take one, to put things that are not similar next to each other, to put things that are not similar. Yeah. Say put something that's not similar, like it's different, right? They're not the same. It's like, it's probably a bad example. Putting an egg next to a apple and saying they're the same or they're similar when they're not. Yeah, two different things together as we'll have a look at more definition. Placed or appearing close together or side by side, especially with an arresting or surprising effect, or in a way that invites comparison or contrast. The director handles the blah blah blah. Some more definitions here. Refers to the absence of linking elements of a group, words that are listed together. And and so forth. To place different things together in order to create an interesting effect, or to show how they are the same or different. To put things that are not similar next to each other. Okay, hopefully you got the understanding of that. Which juxtaposes the sons of God, male gender, divine nature, with the daughters of men, female gender, human nature. So you're taking one and putting it with the other, and then making out that something happens between those two, right? I.e., they get together and then they have offspring. An angel has offspring with a human being, a woman, a female. Yeah. From this parallelism, it could be inferred that the sons of God are understood as some superhuman beings. The New American Bible commentary draws a parallel to the Epistle of Jude, and the statement sets forth in Genesis, suggesting that the epistles refer implicitly to the paternity of Nephilim as heavenly beings who came to earth and had sexual intercourse with women. The footnotes of the Jerusalem Bible, published in 1966, suggest that the biblical authors intended the Nephilim to be an antidote of a superhuman race. Some Christian commentators have argued against this view, citing Jesus' statement that the angels do not marry. Others believe that Jesus was only referring to angels in heaven. Evidence cited in favour of the fallen angels interpretation includes the fact that the phrase the sons of God, as in the Hebrew, or sons of God, is used twice outside of Genesis chapter 6. In the book of Job 1:6 and 2:1, where the phrase explicitly references angels. The Septuagint manuscript Codex Alexandrinus, a manuscript of the Greek Bible, written on parchment. Reading of Genesis 2:6-2 renders this phrase as the angels of God, while Codex Vaticanus reads sons. Targum Pseudo Jonathan identifies the Nephilim as Shemihaza, fallen angel of apocryphal Abrahamic traditions and Manichaeism, who ranked as the heavenly hierarchy as the leaders of the Watchers, and the angels in the name list from one Enoch, and so forth. It's further elaborated. The story of the Nephilim is further elaborated in the book of Enoch. The Greek, Aramaic, and Ge'ez manuscripts of 1 Enoch and Jubilees, Lysogenesis, Leptogenesis, obtained in the 19th century and held in the British Museum and Vatican Library, connect the origin of the Nephilim with the fallen angels, and in particular with the Egregoroi, Watchers. Watchers is a type of biblical angel. Watcher occurs in both plural and singular forms in the book of Daniel, where reference is made to the holiness. The apocryphal books of Enoch refer to both good and bad watchers, with a primary focus on the activities of men. Some Yezer, angel of high rank, is described as leading a rebel sect of angels and descended to earth to have sexual intercourse with human females. And there it is there, according to Genesis, or Book of Enoch, or whatever, and so forth. Descendants of Seth and Cain, and so forth. Fossil remains, popular culture, and so forth. These all the references, external links. Okay, another one here by this guy, Lshana Ateeqa blog, Midrash with Natan Lawrence. Probably a depiction of what they look like. And then some rant on Genesis 6:4. Giants, Hebrew Nephilim. This Hebrew word is found only in one other place in the Bible, Numbers 13:33, and so forth. And it goes into deep explanation on that. The idea that Nephilim is a result of the union between demons and women is largely promoted in the Ethiopian book of 1 Enoch, which, though mentioned in the scriptures, Jude 14, also in I don't think it's mentioned in Genesis. The version that is currently extant is barely 500 years old. It is of questionable origins and in some instances contradicts the Bible. The biblical Enoch lived more than 5,000 years before the oldest extant copy of the modern book that bears its name. Therefore, some modern scholars reason that it is highly unlikely that the current book of Enoch is the same as the one that is mentioned in the Bible, and therefore discredit its contents. On the other hand, modern biblical scholars such as Dr. Michael Heiser, in his recent well-researched books, The Unseen Realm, Recovering the Supernatural View of the Bible and Reversing Hermon, Enoch, The Watchers and the Forgotten Missions of Jesus Christ, give strong and eye-opening linguistic, historical and biblical evidence to the validity of the Book of Enoch. Well, we actually found in the Book of Brita, or Genesis, that he was created to be dutiful to God, and he lived quite a long time, and then that was it. It didn't say God took him up in a spaceship or anything like that and went to 7 heavens. Doesn't say all that. It just says he did his duty to God, okay, that he was created for. Okay, here's about this guy, Natan Lawrence, born into a Torah observant Christian family at a Bible college his parents were attending some 60 years ago. And lots of history about tree pruning. At 30 he was baptized in the Holy Spirit and became a Bible teacher. Okay, working as youth pastor, so he's a Christian. Yahweh tells him to marry a certain lady or whatever. And they started a Messianic Hebrew roots of the Christian Faith Fellowship, Congregation Elim in Portland, Oregon, USA, and he which is an ordained pastor. He led until he retired from that position in the fall of 2016. And he did other things. He received an ordination and held leadership positions in the Messianic Israel Alliance, founded by Angus and Batya Wooten, who were some of his most influential spiritual mentors. Okay, he's a writer, published many articles, got a free ministry website, hoshanarabaorg.org. He writes biblical Hebrew and Koine Greek. Okay. Okay. Says he identifies with two biblical prophets who were both outdoorsmen and men of the earth, and he stood for Torah righteousness. So is he saying, well, because I work outdoors, they worked outdoors, and they were men of the earth, probably agriculturists or tree fellas or whatever, tree planters or whatever he does, then yeah, I must be like them or something. I'm not too sure if that's what it's saying here. And Amos the prophet, who was also an outdoorsman, shepherd and arborist, so he identifies with them by the look of it. Yeah, because he's an artist, an avid gardener, enthusiastic tree and shrub pruner, and Japanese bonsai and Iwaki styles, a mountain backpacker, fisherman and swimmer, as a high alpine mountain climber, a downhill skier, as well as a high climbing arborist. In his career, he's a professional tree climber, climbing 20,000 trees. Okay, so he's relating himself to John and Amos, who were supposedly outdoorsmen. Okay, each to his own. Okay, so we're going to look at the original ancient Brita or Genesis, in the original ancient, very old, sacred scribal, old tongue or language, translated as the language of God, that God spoke to Adam and Eve with, and also the men gathered in Sumer at the Tower of Babel before he confused them with many languages or multi-languages and he scattered them all over the earth. We're going to have a look at Genesis 6, which has a footnote here in the ancient Aramaic, Ureita, the Hebrew version of the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is probably thousands of years older, maybe 3,000 years older. And while human beings began to multiply on the face of the earth, daughters were born to them. Okay, this is the godless line, the descendants of Cain probably. Okay, they were just ordinary people. They're not doing their own thing, not children of God or the righteous. The sons of God saw the daughters of men, so they were just ordinary human beings. But the sons of God, the children of God, those of that one holy line, the descendants of Seth, you can go back further, probably in chapter 4 of the Aramaic scriptures. These descendants of Seth, because Seth had sons and descendants, and then they began to call on the name of the Lord in your Americanized Bible, English Bible versions, or in the Brita or Lshana, the Brita or Genesis in English, the Aramaic in English. They began to call on the name of God, or they were called a children of God. And that's the start of that holy line, which eventually, Yeshua Mashiach, or Jesus the Messiah, would be born through. So the sons of God, or the children of God, saw that the daughters of men, human beings, were beautiful, and so they picked for themselves women whomever they pleased. And the Lord said, my spirit does not reside in the human being forever, or eternity, to the ends of the universe, because he is flesh. And his lifespan became 120 years. That's how long they would live on, until God's recompense, or their wrath was upon. We'll have a look at the footnotes here. See, it's Genesis 6, Ureita, the Hebrew version of the Epic of Gilgamesh. 6:2, literal Aramaic expression, daughters of the human being. And so that's the hot chickie babes. 6:3:1, literal Aramaic idiom or expression. God won't remain with them to the end of the universe. He won't be with them forever, because they're basically just flesh, and they did fleshy, sinful things all the time. So the 6:3:2:1, literal Aramaic idiom or expression, age or eon. His age, or their era, or his time, would become 120 years, because there were giants in the earth in those ages, and even later, because the sons of God entered upon the daughters of men, and they were born to them aliens, who were the giants of universal fame. It's not talking about little green men, none who's walk from walk or anything like that. No extraterrestrials in the Eastern texts, scriptures, and the Eastern mindset. It's not talking about we call them Anunnaki or anything like that. It's down here in the footnotes. It says 6:4:1:3, literal Aramaic idiom or expression, strange creatures, hybrid forms, monstrously large Neanderthals. Because if we look at our other videos, which we might put at the end screen, so you can look at that, the Genesis 1-5 or 5-8 or something like that video, right? God created Neanderthal man before he created the human beings, Adam and Eve, etc. Right? He created them told them to multiply, be fruitful, increase, whatever, and they moved on somewhere towards the east, apparently. That's the hint we get, right? But these were like living beings, but they didn't have that Spirit of God in them. Okay? They had life, they had a soul, but they were more animalistic, relied on their animal instincts. They didn't have that Spirit of God to have that communion with God, that connection with God, and be in His presence, all that sort of stuff. Okay? So they basically followed their animal instincts. They're what you know as the caveman. Okay? They were pre-Adamic beings, and then Adam and Eve, well, Adam was created upon the dust. There's two different passages in this ancient Brita, or Genesis in English. One built in the image of God, the likeness of God. He looked like God, has God's face. The other one, the other one was formed in the visage, had the visage of God, had His face, looked like Him, etc., etc. But he didn't have that Spirit. Okay, and then Adam was molded from the dust of the earth or the ground, made in the image of God, and he had that life, that soul, and that spiritual connection, so he could be in communion with God, connect with God, walk and talk with God, etc. Okay? And then he came to realize through sin, good and evil, etc., etc. So it's nothing to do with aliens, nunus, walk from orc, little green men, or anything like that. So these two types of beings were basically related, being pretty much the same. Only difference is one didn't have that Spirit of God, right? That Ruach HaKodesh. Okay, so they can commune with God, etc., etc. Okay. So when they interloped, when these Neanderthals got together with the daughters of the human beings, Seth's descendants, who left their rightful place, with in the presence of God, walking, talking with God, they turned their back on Him, and they got together with these women, these daughters of these Neanderthals, these descendants of Cain. Okay, so they intermarried with them, had offspring to them, and because they're so genetically blood related, that's why they came out with giants who became famous, because they're strong, powerful, that sort of stuff, right? According to these footnotes here, strange creatures, hybrid forms, monstrously large Neanderthals, okay, half-breeds, human, Neanderthal offspring, okay, and then man eventually outbreeds these Neanderthals, but we today have Neanderthal tendencies because we're hybrids. Okay? Some people do look like cavemen, act like cavemen, but if over time they evolve, right, because of interbreeding, we have their nature, okay, within us. Those Neanderthal tendencies, their DNA, their genetics, whatever, running through our blood, through our bodies, okay, and through our blood, etc. Okay, so that's what explains it there. They're not aliens or Anunnaki or this other rubbish. Okay, they were like these strange, funny-looking, freaky-looking hybrids from their intermarriage. So it's not the angels from heaven that fell, because if you look in Scripture, you find that yes, these angels fell from their place where they were chiefs, where they had some power, some authority. God created them to do His bidding. Satan or Lucifer sinned, he rebelled, and his other angels were convinced by him. Because they did this, they were ousted out of the kingdom, fell to earth, and according to scripture are chained in the underworld until the day of judgment, when they'll be released. So yeah, it's not Anunnaki or any other rubbish like that. Okay. And then they just got out of hand. They just did anything they wanted, everything they wanted, with whoever they wanted. They just went evil, totally evil. Imagine the whole world, everyone in the world just being evil, doing sick, depraved things, whatever you could think of, that you'd like to do, without anyone telling you what to do. What a lot of people do today, And then God has his plan to wipe out all of these beings and the animals, etc., all his creations. But then he remembers Noah, his wife, his 3 sons and their wives apparently, that they were righteous. So he has mercy upon them, okay, because they are righteous. And he says, well, you don't deserve to be destroyed, okay. So here's the plan: make an ark, survive, live on. So I'll kill everyone else off, and then afterwards you repopulate the earth once again, right? Okay, so that's basically that in a nutshell. So that unconfuses you, right? You don't have to go, oh well, then it says here in Hebrew, it says here in this, it means this and it means that, and according to this guy it means this and that, and you're totally baffled and confused, and you're like, well, it's not really telling me exactly, straight out, boom, that there was an interaction between those who are considered or called children of God, who began to call upon the name of God in Genesis, who turned their back upon God, walked away from that position, and got together with the daughters of men, perhaps Neanderthals, right, and forgot about God completely, did their own thing, had strange offspring, and so forth. So if anyone tells you, oh no, it's the aliens and all this Anunnaki crap, they're lying to you. Okay, so he wipes them all out with that flood apparently, and then Noah and his family, his sons and his wife and the woman of his sons with them, they came out and they repopulated the earth. So if you like this video and it opened your eyes, made you more aware of the real truth, and that you're being told a lot of dribble, because we, the Ministry of the Real Truth, strive to bring you the real truth, the whole truth, in accordance to the original scriptures, which you have here, the original Tab Asheret of the Lshana Ateeqa Supprayah, the language of God, the old sacred scribal language or tongue or language that God, the language that God spoke to Adam and Eve, and also to the men who were gathered at Sumer or Shinar to build that tower, who spoke that one language, which was Lshana Ateeqa Supprayah, the language that God spoke to Adam and Eve. So if you like this, open your eyes to it, right? Then subscribe to our channel, give us a like, add your comments down below, and then share this with all your family, friends, Christian friends, Islamic and Jewish friends.